guys, welcome back to Front Foot Official. And today we have a really special guest, Bharat Sundaresan sir. He works with CricBuzz. Is a great sports journalist. Helps us with all different types of in-depth analysis of articles of different cricket games all around the world, like whether it's Indian games, whether it's abroad, like any Olympics, whatever. Like it's just a pleasure reading his articles and everything. So today it's a pleasure for us to talk to him, and I have Archisman Mishra today with me. So welcome Bharat sir and Archisman Mishra bhaiya to show.
No, you shouldn't welcome me. First of all, because I am from the channel only. But the pleasures are welcoming you to our channel. We have been waiting for a long time to talk to you. But Arnab, let me tell you, sir is an all-rounder. He has written some terrific books. He's a great author. Especially, why I call him the best author in my opinion, because he has written something related to my favorite cricketer, which you know who he is. So, fantastic book. I have read it. It is with me. Great book. And I am yet to read Suresh Rainer's version, the new one. So, I am yet to read that. But MS, the book which is written about MS, that was absolutely fantastic. So, okay, sir, moving on. My first question to you, how did the passion for this game started?
Oh, sorry. I just finished dinner. Firstly, it's my pleasure to be on your show. Like I was just telling Arnav before we pressed record, I've never been on a podcast hosted by a 12-year-old, and it's a new experience for me, for sure. It's amazing that someone so young has taken this platform up, and it's giving it a shot. But that's the world we live in, and a hi to you as well, Archisman. We have, I think, spoken on one of the other shows for sure. But no, it's. I'm sorry I kept you guys waiting. I do use Twitter, but you might think that like I use Twitter a lot, but I don't actually. So it's just that whenever something comes to my mind, pops up into my mind, I just put something in. But yeah,
currently you are in high demand for that talkback show. Sorry to interrupt, but that show has been phenomenal. That morning talkback show you are doing with Gab sir, so that is fantastic. Yes, sir, go ahead.
No, thank you. And at some point, I think you guys should stop calling me sir. Yeah, I feel like some old Buddha here. Like no. So it's thank you for your kind words. Yeah, that show has been doing really well. So that's a lot of fun. As you can see, I like to talk a lot. So anytime I get an opportunity to talk, I take that up. How did my passion for cricket start? I guess it's like anyone else in India. You grow up. I don't know. Arnav knows how life was in the 80s and the 90s. I was born in 1985, a long time ago. And my brother played cricket, watched cricket. My father watched cricket, my late father. And then, we watched cricket at home, and it just started. But it was always, I think in my life, it became very important very early on. Like I didn't just watch it. It became, I don't know how to put it into words. It just became the most important thing in my life. It became so integral that my earliest memories in life, like for a lot of Indians, starts with cricket. I don't know what happened in my life before that, right? Like my first memory of life itself is watching a cricket match. And yeah, my brother was again one of those guys who just didn't watch the sport. He wanted to know a lot about the cricketers, wanted to know a lot about the backstories. And this is long before the internet came into being. So we used to listen to a lot of commentary. I'm not that old that I'm going to tell you about waking up and listening to the radio, but on TV there was cable TV. So I used to, we used to listen to the commentary a lot and read whatever we could get, and that's how my curiosity about cricket really started. Apart from the playing and just watching, about going beyond that and finding out more about these cricketers. So I remember in the early 90s, playing cricket in the building as well. My brother and I always knew a lot more, and so people would come to us if they wanted to know about a cricketer, especially if he wasn't from India. And yeah, so I played cricket like everybody else. I played cricket through my school days, my college days, my university days, and all that. But yeah, it was. Again, like I said, it's very difficult to sum up how important it was. Like um it became my identity from a very young age, like because I knew a lot more, because I was this crazy West Indies fan as well from a very like from the time I was 5 or 6. I was just known as that kid in school, in my building, in my family, as that crazy West Indies fan. So every time they won, people would congratulate me as if I have done something. It still happens in the press box, but yeah, it used to be funny. So it became my identity, and it's just stayed my identity, I guess.
Yeah, so that's great. But currently you are in Australia, I guess. So you are an Indian. You love West Indies, and you are staying in Australian. So sometimes any biasness comes to us, or you are always an Indian when any ICC event goes on.
No. See, once you become a journalist, if either
Yeah.
of you want to get into the industry, the bias goes out of the window. I'll tell you, when I'm covering a match, I am biased towards whichever team will finish the match first. It doesn't matter whether it's India or Netherlands or West Indies or England or whoever is playing. Like, see, because once the match, I mean, look, I will be kidding if I say I don't like to cover great matches. Like, I've been fortunate enough to travel the world and cover some great matches. But most of the times I will always back the team, whoever it is. जिसको भी जीतना है जीतो, लेकिन जल्दी जीतो यार, लेकिन ताकि मेरा काम जल्दी खत्म हो जाए. So yeah, that's always there. So I'm never biased towards. Yeah, like I said, I'm a massive West Indies fan. I'll follow them, and so what I do is, like, see, before I became a journalist, of course, it was everything for me, right? I would like not. I would not go to school, for example. When West Indies were beaten by Kenya in '96 in that World Cup, I didn't go to school because I don't know. Back, my parents were very supportive. Or maybe they gave up on me. I don't know what's the truth there. But I knew if I went to school, I'll get teased a lot because my team lost. My West Indies lost. So I like, that's how crazy I was. But then once I became a journalist, of course, you throw all that bias out of the window. Or you hope so. There are a lot of journalists who still continue to support their team, which, like, to each his own or to each her own. But yeah, I have no bias. And the reason I'm in Australia is, I think there is something more important than West Indies cricket, Indian cricket, and Australian cricket, which is my wife. So that's the reason I'm in Australia, or I live in Australia.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Now you have written some fantastic books. So being a journalist and being an author are two different things. So while writing those books, I mean, how did you got the idea to write about that particular cricketer, and how did it feel when you wrote about them? Because to be an author, you need to get involved into their personal life also, not only their professional life, but also the personal life. So tell us about those moments, or tell us about that journey. How did you become an author and experience while writing those books?
I became an author by chance, I would say. I've been a journalist since 2008, but people would always say, and I've wrote for the Indian Express for 10 and a half years. So
Yeah.
I was used to writing long form pieces. We used to have they still have it, something called the Sunday Story, which is a full page story, which could be anywhere between 1,500 words to 3,000 words, depending on what you're writing about. So I was used to writing long form. So, I mean, people had said, "Oh, you should write a book someday." Yeah, I'm lazy by choice. Like, I was like, yeah, I already anyway write for a profession. So who will find the time to write more? But then it was Penguin, Penguin, the publishers, who approached me in 2016 for that Dhoni book, and they asked me to write the book. And I initially was very reluctant. I tried making excuses to get out of it, but Radhika, who's now become a very good friend of mine, who's one of the commissioning editors there, she convinced me to do it. And I did it, and it worked out. And it's similar even with the Suresh Raina book, because I had a working relationship with Penguin when Suresh wanted to write the book, and And they suggested my name, and Suresh and I have known each other, of course, for many years because, no, he's not one of my friends. I'm just saying we've been part of the same industry for so long. Yeah, before I move on, Arnav, and Archesman, you'll hear a lot of people ask you once you become a journalist, do you know this guy? And of course you'll know that guy, right? Like, of course I'll know an MS Dhoni or a Virat Kohli. Like, we're in the same industry. But does that mean he's my friend? Not really. Like, my friends are still the kids I grew up with in Ghatkopar, and other friends, of course. Like, some become your friends, as you just connect, right? You just connect to people, but you connect at a level where it's not like journalist, cricketer, and tu cricketer hai, iske liye mera dost hai. It's just like those kind of relationships form. But going back to Suresh Raina, so they floated my name, and he was more than happy to work with me. So that's what it happened. That's how that worked out. So I never chose to be an author. It kind of happened, and now I guess I've written 2 books. So and I enjoyed the whole process. So the whole process of or how different it is to be an author, or to write a book and to write an article on a daily basis is, there are some similarities. It's still about storytelling. It's still about flow. It's like any art form, right? If it's a song or a movie or anything, it has to be flow, right? Like, it's not abstract art. I only talk about abstract art because I was just watching some show on TV with my wife, and it was an art competition, painting competition. So it's not like that. It still has to have a flow. Like, you can't lose the reader. So the only difference is, when you write an article of, say, 3,000 words, the reader takes 15 minutes to read that article. If you write a book, they might take 15 hours. But the important thing is not to lose the reader. A lot of people, it's just a human thing. If you're reading a book, you guys would have experienced it as well. Arnav would be experiencing it with his textbooks right now. You read a book and you lose interest at some point. You shut that book and you move on, right? So as an author, you don't want that to happen. So those parts, those elements of it stay the same. The only difference is, you need to do it for a longer period, as I said. But in a book, the most important thing is you need to find out why you're writing the book. Like, what's the point? Like in an article as well, in journalism, I always tell young writers, always answer that question. Like, why am I writing this piece? Right? And if the answer is like because everybody's tweeting about it, that's not the right answer. So it has to be relevant. So even with the Dhoni book, when they said write the book, I was like, wait, there are already books written about Dhoni. There's a movie coming out. That movie was supposed to come out that year. I said, look, if I have to write the book, it has to be about the fact that he's an enigma, and that's what interests me. So that's what I can write, or I can try to write about. It wasn't very different to tap into their personal side of the story, because you do that as journalists as well. And at the Indian Express, we were past masters at writing human stories, or human interest stories. So that was not really an issue. It was just actually finding the time to write the book. So it's not that I remember when I told my ex-boss that I'm writing a book on Dhoni, the first thing he asked me was like, so when are you taking a break from work? And I was like, I'm not taking a break from work. Because knowing me, I knew if I took a break from work, it would have basically become a vacation. I would have done nothing. So I continued writing. So even with the Suresh Raina book, I wrote most of it during the India-Australia series, which I was covering here. And, it was pretty hectic because I had to drive around and find motels and because of all the border closures and all that. So that was not easy, but you just end up doing it. So finding time is the biggest challenge. At least this is me talking. I know others have their own systems and all that. I am not very systematic in life, as my wife will tell you. But so it's the process. Really is very arbitrary. At least in my book, no pun intended.
Okay. Yeah. Before moving on to Arnav for cricketing questions, last question from my side. Yes, no doubt, you are a fantastic journalist. You have been an author, and you said that we can't have biasness, or we can't be like we can't do what we want. Sometimes we need to be practical. So my question, somewhere down the line, of course, you have been a fan. I mean, you have grown up as a fan. That's why you loved cricket. So my question is, is there any moment like I'm going to ask you two moments. I mean, one favorite moment while India winning and one sad moment while India losing. Or we can cancel out India since you are a cricket fan, not any particular cricket country fan. So any the two moments you can say greatest moments like fantastic moment like you jumped around and you had a fantastic sleep, you had some great dinner, and any sad moment like you couldn't sleep that day. I know by becoming a journalist, you have to control emotions, but somewhere down the line, you are a fan. So these things also might be happening because we have seen many commenters also. Literally, they're crying when India. I have seen Harsha Bhogle once in the 2015 World Cup semi-final. He was very upset. So
Saurav
I
Ganguly
hope
was
you got.
crying in the 2019 semi-final.
Saurav Ganguly was a cricketer, so I mean he can have that biasness towards India. But the journalists, authors, somewhere down the line they have to control. As sir previously said, you can't be biased towards a particular thing. So I hope you got my question, sir.
No, absolutely. See, firstly, I'm not a very emotional person. I don't
Yeah. That's why.
nothing.
That's why I asked it.
Yeah, I don't get very excited about anything. I'm pretty laid back, as it turns out, as I am. But a couple of things. You talk about bias, and yeah, of course, I'm a fan. But this advice came to me from my ex-boss Sandeep Dwivedi, who's still the national sports editor of the Indian Express. Very early on in my career, he said, if you want to have a long career, or if you want to be happy and have a long career, like you should always stay a fan of cricket.
Exactly.
Right, like if you become a fan of people and stay a fan of a team and all that, then you kind of like your ups and downs, that's natural for whoever is a sports fan, man, woman, boy, girl, child, whatever, right? It's the same. You kind of ride that wave, right? But as a journalist, it's very important that you stay a fan of cricket, because journalism as an industry, media itself, it's filled with cynicism, right? We're all cynics after a point. I don't know what the reason for it is. Maybe because we don't get paid much. It just looks like this glamour job from the outside, but especially in India, don't get paid much at all. And it's getting worse and worse. It's just sad when I speak to some of my colleagues back home in India. But there is a lot of cynicism. But you can never let that cynicism come into or obstruct your work in terms of, or there should never be any cynicism over cricket, your love for cricket. Like that cannot change, because see, look, like our careers are long. We might, if I have a long career, I'll end up seeing 4-5 generations of the Indian cricket team. Like already, in the 14 years that I've been a journalist covering cricket, I've seen 3 generations, right? Like when I joined the industry, Ganguly was captain. Then the whole Dhoni era, Kumble was captain. And then I didn't start that early. Kumble was captain. And then the whole Dhoni era started and ended. And now we are the middle or the second half of the Virat Kohli era already. So cricketers will come and go, teams will win and lose, but cricket will stay the same, and you should always stay invested in cricket. So to answer your questions about I'll talk about 2 moments that.
Sir, I will just add one more thing. Has there been any moment where you have been criticized? I mean, journalists are, of course, they are criticized and appreciated sometimes. But is there any moment which made you feel bad, and is there any moment which made you happy while being journalist? I mean, from fans, from cricketers.
Look, I can't think of any moment that made me sad, to be honest. But I'll tell you the proudest, not proudest, I would say, but the happiest moment for me was, I wouldn't even say happiest, Archis, like a moment that is very special for me, as a journalist, from what I've heard, is when I wrote the whole Patrick Patterson story. And not because people, became viral and people spoke about it and all. Yeah, I mean, that as a professional, you feel happy. That's fine. But what I've been able to do for him ever since, what that meeting has meant to him. The fact that, I've continued to be that person for him, like his only window into the outside world. And I started that whole GoFundMe campaign a couple of months back, and the fact that, like, he I've become that person for someone, right? Like, it's way beyond just a story, or like, yeah, these are not things that I'm going to talk about publicly, like, in detail. So that for me is seriously very special, that I could bring that change in anyone's life, right? Forget about the fact that he was a great cricketer or whatever. Like, someone so far away somewhere in Jamaica, some Indian fellow with long hair, like, going there and meeting him and finding him and being that change, that means a lot. See, there have been many moments where people have said good things about me. There are a lot of moments, like, when people have said bad things about me. But look, and the very most important lesson I've learned in life, especially as a journalist, is my identity is not like my story, or like my identity is not Bharat Sundaresan, the journalist. So whether you say good things about me or whether you say bad things about me, I'll never change, because there are way more things in life, many more things in life that matter more to me than, this is a job, right? Like, so the one person I criticize the most for calling it a passion is my mother, because she does go around telling people, yeah, my son is following his passion. No, I don't think it's a job like any other job. Like, I'm the same as a teacher or a dentist, or I do a job, I get paid for it. So my happiness and sorrow doesn't really come so much from, journalism. It comes from other things in life, like, being a good whatever it
Exactly.
is. Yeah. But I don't want to like leave your question hanging, though we will come to Arnav after this.
Yeah.
My two favorite matches, I'll tell you, or matches that stand out. One, of course, is when India Australia played each other in Adelaide in 2014. This was just like 10 days after Philip Hughes died. And I always talk about that match, just the emotion around it, like, around Australia as a country back then. It was just so different. It was something I can't, like, you can't imagine, like, a young man had died on the field. And just being there, and, Bradman's granddaughter, who's a great opera singer, she sang the national anthem. And, and that match we all remember, like, now it's looked at as the match that changed Indian cricket, because Virat Kohli and
Yeah.
Ravi Shastri got together for the first time. But like, it was just this poetic end where Australia won such a close match, and they all ran to that spot where Philip Hughes' number
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
written. They all, like, and it wasn't planned. They all just, like, ended up there. That was like, it was really emotional just to be there and to, like, experience that. Another thing is happened more on a cricket tour than on the cricket field. Like, there have been some incredible matches that are, like, you end up covering over time, like, this Australia tour, the Ben Stokes innings in Leeds. Like, I was there, and it was just, it happened in the space of 60 balls. The World Cup final in 2019, I was there more as a
Mm.
radio commentator. But being in Johannesburg the night Nelson Mandela died, I don't think anything can compare to that. Like, it's almost like having been in India the day, not just India, the in Delhi when or in India when Gandhi was shot, or, you're talking Gandhi, you're talking Nelson
Yes. Yeah.
Mandela, like, so. Yeah, I'll never. There was a one day international that day, India South Africa, that finished, and then the news broke out that Mandela had died. So to be there and standing outside Mandela's house, like, late at night, like, hearing all these people sing songs, and yeah, it was just a incredible moment. Just blessed to have been there. I always say blessed to be alive every day.
Okay, Arnav, you can go on.
Yeah, sir. So, like, now when cricket is going on, India versus England right now. Yesterday, India clinched off a historic win at Lords. It was a wonderful game. Brilliant, brilliant. Like, we were just like, at a moment, it was like, in the morning when the day started, it was like India can lose, India need to save this match, blah 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 blah. But then as the match went on, at lunch it was like India should declare. But at the start of the day, India thought India will get all out only. But India declared just after lunch. Then the way our bowlers bowled with heart, they bowled their heart out. Our bowlers were absolutely brilliant. So, like, is this, and my basic question to you over here is, like, we see like how cricket changes over time. Like in one day it was like England were on top, India needed to save the game, then England went down, India came up, and then a match which was looking like a draw, India in the last moments of the game clinched off a historic win. So like, what will be the impact of this game for all of us? Like, is this win bigger than the GABA win? Like, it's really tough to compare, but like, it's one of those games where you think like this shows that this is new India, because like the way Indians sledged the other players, like uh, if the other players were like if the English players were sledging the Indian players, they were giving it back to them, which was not happening 10 years back, 12 years back, which happens now. We saw that in 2018 India versus Australia. We saw that now. So what's the impact of this game on Indian cricket?
Well, it's like you said, now it's very difficult to compare this game with the test match at Gabba and say which one was greater. Very different scenarios. Like India played with, as you well know, side D, or like, their D or E side, right? Mohammad Siraj playing his third test match was the senior most bowler in that lineup. Yes, they had a decent batting lineup, but and to beat Australia at the Gabba, where they're not lost in 20 plus years or 30 plus years, and to not just survive the Gabatoire, as they used to call it, but to bring it down in that fashion, I think it was just another very different test win. I still think it was greater in the context of where Indian cricket is right now. This test match win, of course, as incredible as it is, you still had your full strength team. So already, I mean, you can argue Shubman Gill wasn't there. Just like, yeah, but more or less, you had all the big names playing for you. So I guess it's different when you look at it in that context. But it just means that it's another significant moment for Indian cricket, or modern Indian cricket, where it tells you that, because people talk about Indian cricket these days more about the might they have behind the scenes, right? Like
Hmm.
the muscle that they flex. So they have the money, they have the IPL, like, they have so much power. But we've seen this year, especially, India actually show that might on the field. Like they did it in Australia. Now they've done it in England. And but to come back from all these situations, like they kept coming back in Australia, right? I did a lot of commentary here, and there were a lot of former Australian cricketers who I shared the commentary box with, and that is one thing they would keep saying, that this Indian team just does not go down. Like, you keep throwing punches at them, they just keep coming back. And like, we saw another example of that yesterday, a classic example of that yesterday, and also day before. Like, we cannot forget what Rahane and Pujara did.
Pujara, and
Yeah.
yeah.
That partnership kept India alive in the game. So that's just that tells you a lot about the fiber of this Indian team. About the sledging bit, I think the big thing that has changed is, it's not that the Indian cricketers didn't give it back, right? I mean, there was
Hmm.
Ganguly, and then, like, even in the 2007-8 series when Dhoni was captain, and Hayden and those guys would sledge the Indians, they gave it back. You remember Gautam Gambhir in the
Hmm.
2008 series at home. It's of course before your time, Arnav. I can't believe that's a real thing, but I'm speaking to someone for whom 2008 was before his time. But you learn every day. So Gautam Gambhir got stuck into Shane Watson, but the difference is, back then it was more individuals who were doing it. In a team, you would have two or three who would really give it back to the opposition. Now it's just that they're doing it as a team. Everyone does it. Like, they just come together, and and also the crowd, like the reaction from India has changed. Back then there was still a majority of Indian fans would be like, wow, what is this? Like, should we be doing this? Like, should we be poking the bear? Should we, like, be giving it back to them in their fashion? Shouldn't we do it the more courteous Indian way? But now when you see a Mohammad Siraj, like, playing his seventh test match, go running after whoever, right? Like whether it's Butler or Root or whoever, it just tells you that Indians are reacting to it differently as well. So I think we're growing as a country. all the time. The India that Arnav, is very different to the India Archisman grew up in, and very different to the India I grew up in. So, now Indians are just more comfortable in their own skin. Is something I always talk about, right? People look at Virat Kohli and say he is the embodiment of modern day India. But if you ask me, a Mohammad Siraj or an Ajinkya Rahane is as much as an embodiment of India, because more than anything, they're just so confident about giving it back, like you said, but confident while in doing it in their own style. Like, they're so comfortable in their own skin, like I said, which is tells you a lot more about this India than, the odd sledge from the captain.
Yes, sir. So my final question for today's show will be like this game. Like there were no like if you sum it up, there aren't a lot of negatives for India. Virat Kohli's form is a concern. Pujara, Rahane got back into form. I would say that for Rahane. Pujara again he played 206 balls, but like there wasn't a shot which you would say and like be wow, like that sort of a shot. But again, playing 206 balls is no easy thing. So, like, what will you make any changes for the next test? Like, any changes in the Indian playing 11 for the next test, for the England playing 11 in the next test?
Well, I'll take the easy option first. I'll talk about India. England, well, it's going to take, my answer might be longer. Look, I think with the Indian team, you spoke about Pujara not playing in too many shots, but I think with Pujara, people should forget the strike rate. They should talk, I talk about this a lot. You'd have something called a ball meter, because it's really the number of balls he faces basically means that the bowlers in the opposition have to get, like, when you take them into their fifth and sixth spells, does not mean that they're going to break down, but they're always less effective than they are in their first, second, third, fourth spells. Whoever it is, that's just a fact of life, which is what Pujara does so well. Virat Kohli's form, well, it's a concern, you can say, but yes, he's not scored a century for a long time. But cricket in England is very different to, say, Test cricket in India or in Australia, where if your team can get to 300, like we saw in this Test match, your team will always be in the will always be in the game. India lost an opportunity in the first innings. They should have made 450. Yeah, fair enough. But if you make 300, 350, you will, like, till the last day, you'll always stay in the game. So, you don't really need, if you can get one guy scoring 100 like Rahul did so here, or even if you get 3 or 4 80s, often that's more than enough in England. But of course, more than anyone else, like, there's a lot of criticism of Virat Kohli. You could see it in his body language as well, the way he reacted after getting out in the second innings. But that's classic Virat Kohli. He's just so desperate to own the stage.
Yeah, this game showed me like Virat Kohli is coming back, because like since 1 year I haven't seen him so disappointed after getting out. Like when he does get out, then at that moment there's a reaction of like, yeah, how can I get out? But like after getting out in the dressing room, like there haven't been many moments. Like I haven't seen him so much fired up with so much aggression since a long time. So like this is just a few examples of Virat Kohli coming back. I'm really happy because he's my favorite cricketer. Like I'm waiting since 1 year. Like when is that century gonna come? I predict that every match, but my prediction always goes wrong. Since the World Test Championship final, I'm not even predicting that till anyways it's not coming right. So like I'm really happy looking at it since yesterday. The old Virat Kohli is coming back in a way. So yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, see, two things don't work in cricket: prediction and jinxes. Like, people talk about them a lot, but seriously, if only we had so much power, right, to control the cricket or what happens on the field. We don't. But you're right. The old Virat Kohli is coming back in the sense he wants it. Like, it's not that he didn't want it before, but he's really reaching that desperation point, and this win will do him a lot of good. And at least it's out of the way. India are ahead in the series now. So I really do think there is that big knock coming up sometime during the series, maybe the third test. In terms of whether there'll be changes, I really don't see there being any reasons. Headingley, where they play the next test match, historically has been known for the ball to swing around and all that. But the pitch has also become very slow in the last few years. The last time they played a test match, there was that Ashes test match where Ben Stokes won it for
Exactly.
them 2 years ago. So the pitch was quite slow, I remember. But they'll still stick with the four seamers. They've decided that that's their formula. Unfortunately, which means Ashwin will have to miss out unless Jadeja gets injured. Thankfully, hopefully he doesn't. There's still like a week to go. And yeah, the batting just picks itself, like
Do
you
you
said,
think
Pujara and
Shardul
Rahane.
Thakur will be coming back if fit?
If fit, but who will you drop?
Yeah,
you can't
like
drop
all the paces perform, like there's no one
exactly.
outside.
And they have a
But
1 week gap as well, so it's not even a case of
Yeah.
they need
But
rest.
for managing workload, like you can drop Bumrah, like not drop, but leave him
not
out.
Bumrah, you can drop Ishant, I guess.
Yeah.
For if I will drop Ishant. But again, as Sir said, that there is a lot of gap in between the second and the third. So that's the reason I guess they might just go in with the same 11. But sometimes Leeds does offer a bit of spin. So that will be the question, because Jadeja hasn't been
Isn't too
taking
effective
wickets.
with the ball. Yeah.
So that will be one thing which India will be doubtful of. But I guess it will be mostly the same team that will be playing.
Yeah, I don't see Jadeja being dropped anytime soon because I think he plays more as an all-rounder. And look, he still averages 24 with the ball, and he really wasn't needed. Like, when you have your four seamers doing as well as they have in this test match. I think people sit and talk a lot about what they did yesterday, but we shouldn't forget what they did on day 3, where, the way Joe Root was batting and the others around him as well. On the hottest day, like, the clouds were clear. They kept India in the game. They took 10 wickets, which in the larger scheme of things you might just forget. But they played a huge role in keeping India in the game. So I don't personally see any changes for England. Are now maybe
Chris might come in.
Pope. Was that
Chris Woakes?
Chris Woakes, I don't know whether he's fit. I don't know where Chris Woakes is these days. If he's fit, then definitely he will play. We know Stuart Broad's gone. Anderson played this test match with an injury. Who knows what his body's saying, because England, knowing England, they're already now will start thinking about the Ashes. Like, they already lost Archer. Who knows about Broad? We don't know about Stokes, whether he'll be back for the Ashes. So they'll start thinking about the Ashes already, knowing how England work. So, I don't know. Ollie Stone's unfit as well. The bowling, I guess, maybe not that much of an issue.
They're batting they're opening.
Yeah, I don't see Sibley playing another test match in this series. So does that mean they bring Zach
Butler
Crawley
to open? Butler to open.
I don't see Butler opening. Hasib Hamid is an opener, so he goes up the order. Zach Crawley comes back. That could happen. I don't know whether Ollie Pope will be brought back for whoever. At least Root and Bairstow and Butler. Forget about Root, but Bairstow and Butler have batted really well. Looks like Moeen Ali should keep his place in the side. But Leeds is also interesting. England might throw in a surprise, get one of those dibbly-dobbly seamers as well, who we have not heard of. It is possible. So it'll be interesting to see what changes England make, but definitely there will be changes.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks, sir, a lot for coming. This was it for this video. We really hope you enjoyed. It was about sir's life, India versus England. So we really enjoyed talking to sir today. So we'll meet you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.